Do skateboard manufacturers need environmental permits? And if you make decks or trucks or wheels or bearings or hardware, which environmental rules are most likely to show up for you? Well, in this video, we're going to walk through the big ones, and by the end, you'll know exactly what you should watch out for at your facility. Hey there, I'm Tate Hunter from RMA, your environmental experts. I am pretty excited to make this video because I am a skateboarder at heart. Now, here at RMA, we help manufacturers navigate environmental compliance every day, so if you're trying to figure out what applies to your facility, we would love to help. Let's jump in. One thing that everybody in the industry already knows is that most skateboard companies don't make completes, meaning that they don't actually manufacture everything themselves. One company might press decks and hand it off to another for graphics, while another is going to pour the wheels, and another is going to cast the trucks, and somebody else is going to make the bearings. And that is important to talk about right up front because there is not one environmental checklist for the skateboard industry. The regulations follow the manufacturing process, not the finished product. Okay, and one more quick note before we keep going. A lot of skateboard components are manufactured overseas, and that is especially true for things like trucks and bearings and hardware. Everything that we're talking about here in this video is based on United States environmental regulations, so if your facility is manufacturing somewhere else, you'll need to follow the environmental requirements that apply in that country instead. Okay, so yes, skateboard manufacturers, regardless of which part you're producing, can absolutely need environmental permits, reporting, plans, inspections, waste management requirements, all kinds of stuff. Not because skateboards are some specially regulated product, but because manufacturing is manufacturing. If you're using industrial equipment, you're doing things like pouring urethane or casting, or machining metal or spraying coatings or cleaning with solvents, storing with chemicals, sending stuff down a drain, environmental rules can absolutely come into play. The question isn't really whether you make skateboards, it's what your facility actually does every day in terms of your processes and the materials that you use. So what are these regulations? Well, waste and hazardous waste rules are generally one of the very first places that manufacturers of all types get pulled in. If you're pressing decks out of maple veneers, you might generate leftover adhesives. Truck manufacturers often deal with metalworking fluids and degreasers, and if finishing is done in-house, plating waste. Bearing and hardware manufacturers can also generate a lot of cleaning solvents and spent acids, metal bearing waste. Different processes create different waste streams, but the responsibility is always the same. You have to identify your waste correctly, you have to store it properly, and you have to dispose of it the right way. Now, air permitting is another big one, and you do not need a big smokestack for this to matter. Things like clear coating and curing and casting and powder coating, blasting, plating, all of these types of operations are things that you need to individually evaluate. Whether you're going to actually need a permit is going to depend on your processes, the materials that you're using, and the state that you're operating in. Now, water is another area that catches a lot of facilities off guard. If rainwater comes into contact with industrial materials outside of your building, even if it's just your parking lot, stormwater permit coverage can absolutely come into play. And a totally separate issue is wastewater. Things like wash water, cleanup water, oily water, water with residues in it, things from spraying or blasting or plating. All of these types of water, if they go anywhere near a drain or have the potential to be discharged, those can trigger additional requirements beyond stormwater requirements that are absolutely worth paying attention to. Then you've got chemical reporting. If you're storing enough hazardous chemicals, Tier 2 reporting might apply. That's so that emergency responders know what's on your site. And then for larger manufacturers, you might also have to do toxic release inventory or TRI reporting if you're processing certain listed chemicals above federal thresholds. And if your facility stores more than 1,320 gallons of oil in above ground containers, whether that's hydraulic oil or machining lubricants or fuel or just drums of bearing grease, you might also need something called an SPCC plan. Now, I know I have just rapid covered a lot of stuff that you've probably never heard of, and there are many more regulations beyond that that could potentially apply to you. Really what I'm trying to illustrate here is the pattern throughout all of this confusing stuff that you've never heard of, which is that none of these regulations apply because you're manufacturing skateboarders. They all apply because you're manufacturing and processing and using materials behind each component. It has nothing to do with the end product, the skateboard itself. Now, here at RMA, this is exactly the kind of thing that we help manufacturers of all shapes and sizes figure out. We evaluate how facilities actually operate, we identify the federal and state requirements that apply to them, and then we help with all of those things, whatever applies to you, whether it's hazardous waste or stormwater or Tier 2 reporting, SPCC plans, and stuff that we didn't even talk about here, like environmental training and some ongoing compliance support for all of those day-to-day things that you need to continue to do. So if you want to talk through your operation with someone who does this every day, just reach out to us here at RMA. That is what we're here for. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.